On today's show, two games end in absolute chaos, controversy front and center, and once again, the league proves it still has no idea what a catch actually is. Fans are furious, officials are defensive, and the rule book might as well be written in pencil. Meanwhile, Seattle doesn't just win, they dominate. So now the question everyone's afraid to ask, are the Seattle Seahawks the team to beat? Or did the rest of the league just blink first? And then there's Buffalo, another playoff run, another heartbreak. And this time it cost Sean McDermott his job. After years of knocking on the door, it finally slammed shut. What went wrong? What's next for McDermott? And how does he stack up against the coaching carousel that's already spinning fast across the league? We're breaking it all down, the calls, the chaos, the coaching fallout. And by the end of this episode, you might see championship weekend very differently because one of these teams is about to expose a truth nobody's ready for. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Blindside Blitz. I am Jim McPhee. Right there beside me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Blitz Nation? Welcome back yet again. And here we are. Going to break down some playoff games. Going to give you some insight into what the coaching updates are. And last but not least, of course, we're going to shit on the referees. Let's go. Let's get this thing going here.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. All right. So, yeah, we're getting right into it. The Buffalo game. Is it just me, or I'm sure, again, it's half the nation, if not more, that the Buffalo Bills got screwed on that one? I feel like this is total Bret Hart WWE, like just got hosed at the end of the whole WrestleMania situation to where we're like, what the hell just went on there, right? Because the Brandon Cooks deal, you're watching this pass go down there. It is just a beautiful pass, too, right there. It's a beautiful pass, perfect. Best pass I've ever seen. And Brandon Cooks has it. It bobbles a little bit, but he has control, comes down, hits the ground, knees down, tugs and roll. And meanwhile, McMillan, the defender, pulls it free at the end and comes out of the whole scuffle with the ball. The controversy is, to me, especially the fact that it's during overtime rules. So that means referees call whatever they're calling, but the NFL, it's up to them and the officials in New York to kind of chime in and be like, hold on, let's expedite the review. Let's make sure this call is right. And it was just crickets throughout the whole thing. We're like, what's going on? Nothing. They just moved on to the next play. And everybody's just like, we're not even going to look at that. McDermott's like, we're not even going to look at that. So he calls timeout and all for nothing again. So blows the timeout. That turns into an interception. The whole world is spinning. Joe, give us your take on that one.
I gotta say, like, this has been a whirlwind of emotions these for these playoff games this past weekend. I mean, oh my Lord. So we got basically you got the nation divided on this. Like, there's some people out there that believe that, okay, yeah, that was an interception. And then the majority, I would say, from what I've been able to, research and gather, it sounds like the majority is on board with the latter idea of it. Yes, it was a completed catch, and for all the right reasons. Joe Burrow, of all people, finally found out what his password was to get back on X, and just let everybody know that everybody's wrong. You guys are all wrong. He basically said, we don't know football if we think that was a catch. Well, Joe, are you trying to get on the right side of the referees for next season? You want to get some calls your way, and that's why you're reinforcing the referees. But I gotta say, like, the rule is you got to have possession and you go to the ground, especially if you're tied with the defender and you make contact with your knee, your shin, like your elbow, like any one point of contact, and you're being touched, you're down by contact. You no longer need to so-called survive the ground. It's a whole different aspect of catching the football. So for this particular play, I don't understand how nobody thinks this is not a catch, because you might be right, Jim. When he first got the ball into his hands, it was a little loose, right? But then he secured it. And it from that point on, it did not move until McMillan ripped it out of his hands. So if you really want to go and break down the film and really kind of look at it, there was a gentleman that was on X that really did that. He slowed it down in frames and said, look at this hand, look at that hand. But it doesn't move. He has one hand on top, one hand on the bottom of the football as he's going down to the ground. His knee touches first and then his whole damn body before McMillan rips it out of him and has the ball in his hands. That is a completed catch. It would be different if he was bobbling it the whole time and never really had it, but he did secure it before he even goes to the ground while being touched by the defender. That is down by contact. That is the Bills football, and that right there, they're deep into the red zone. They can either kick the field goal, they can
game
score a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Jim, this was a catch. I don't care who you are out there. This was an absolute catch.
Yeah. As we all looked over it multiple times, multiple angles, the slow-mos, the freeze frames, I don't see anything other than that. I mean, even if you're trying to look at it real time, fast time, how it's all breaking down, even that, seeing with your naked eye as real time, transpires through it and you're watching it, you just see the tug, the roll. And then I look at it this way also, when you see it getting pulled out by the defender, McMillan, if it's still not in possession, Brandon Cook's arms wouldn't have came like this. Like when it was getting pulled out, it was like that. His arms were like that. So if I'm holding something, you're trying to take it from me and I'm trying to keep it, my arms are going to tug. And that's what you saw in that. That's what, for me, sealed the deal for me. I'm like, that's got to be it. Because it wasn't like it was boom, and he just pulled it away and his arms like, that would seem like it was a possession.
So think about it this way too, is let's just say it doesn't get pulled out of him, right? Think about it this way, people out there. If they both go to the ground, Cooks rolls around the same way he did, McMillan and him are still tied, and that's how the play ends, and McMillan never rips it out, whose ball is it? I'll wait. Whose ball is it? Goes to the receiver, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
The only thing is, for me,
the same thing.
Now, say it's ripped out by McMillan, but then the ball hits the ground. Do you feel that was still enough for a catch? So then it's incomplete. So then that would beg to differ. Then that would actually, if you're saying it's incomplete, then that could side on the side of the defender, because if that ball still isn't down and he hasn't survived the ground, then
actually it would be a fumble.
It would have been incomplete.
Because he completed the catch.
No, well, exactly. So which would you see it as? Say the ball doesn't end up in McMillan's hands and it comes out and hits the ground. Are people looking at it as a fumble or an interception? And that could lead your perception of whether it was an interception to a catch. That's what you would have to determine.
But
the fact that they didn't look at it, though, for me,
that would be very easy to distinguish, because if we're talking about, is it a catch or not a catch? If McMillan isn't involved and he goes and he has the ball, touches his knee down and the ball comes out, then it turns into a fumble because you don't have any entanglement with the defender. That's a completely different scenario. So like then the surviving the ground comes into play. So I mean, that's two completely different scenarios, obviously, and that would change the way you see that catch or no catch. But in this particular situation, it's absolutely a catch. And here's the other crazy thing. As you look at the Rams game, Devontae Adams had pretty eerily similar scenario. Not exactly the same, but damn well close enough to where they called that a catch. And to be honest, Adams didn't even have the ball in possession as long as Brandon Cooks. But they called that a catch. They didn't call it a catch for Cooks. What are we doing, NFL?
And neither was looked at in expedited review at all. And just like, the catch is confirmed. They just moved on. And that's what I think is really shady about it, to where fans are like, all right, you're giving us this expedited review. There is a questionable call. it's up to you guys because one, we can't trust the referees, right? You've even said it right there to where in overtime rules, they take it out of the referees' hands and give it to the NFL officials in New York or whatever to come in and look at it, the big, eye in the sky. And the eye in the sky does nothing. It's quiet. Where are you? Crickets. You know what I'm saying? Where is this? So then that just for me stirs up more controversy. It's like, why are they silent in this? Why didn't they even say, hey, yes, from New York, it has confirmed something, reassurance. That's what that's there for. Right. As I thought it was. I thought it was there to say, hey, human beings here, the refs on the field, maybe they didn't see it. We have camera views up here. We can see it better. We can see the play. We're going to change this to make it right. Instead, it seems like, forget what the refs are doing. We're dictating the game. And that's what it kind of seemed like to me, towards the end of it. They dictated the game, how they wanted it to play out, which leads into the whole people, again, saying about being rigged or the sports betting on top of it, looking at spreads. And it just made it worse for the NFL instead of just coming out and saying, hey, expedited review. We say it's a catch. Then we can still complain about it, whether it was a catch or not. But at least you back it up with looking it over. And that never happened. So.
No, never happened. And that's the problem that a lot of people have. They didn't give it a second look at all. That's the whole point of McDermott calling that timeout, like you mentioned earlier in the show. Like, what are we doing? And McDermott was shocked, in fact, that they never even gave it its due. Never went back to look at it to try to get the call right. Instead, they just wanted to keep it rolling. It seems so odd if you're a team in the playoffs, and the NFL is always about getting it right. But not in that case. It seems like they pick and choose when they want to do it. And since when have we gotten to the playoffs and referees are now more involved in determining outcomes than ever before? You see, we saw it in the regular season, but now, like but when you get to the playoffs, usually they let them play. They don't nitpick every little penalty. You're seeing it. It comes in ebbs and flows with certain teams or certain scenarios, whether they review something, whether they not, whether they want to move on. At some point, the NFL has to correct this. This has been a problem now for the past 3 to 5 years. And we've been pounding the table. Full-time refs. You cannot do it temporarily. And that's what the NFL tried to do. Like, oh, we tried it for one season. Yeah, but the whole point of gradually changing the game and making it a little better, it's never going to be perfect. We as fans understand that. But you need to give it at least 3 years of full-time referees. Like, give it a real chance. Because in the off-season is when you're going to change the outcome for next season. When you train these officials in the offseason on all these different calls that were questionable, controversial, whatever you want to label it as. And then the following year, they should be getting better. And then the next year, they should be getting better. You have to give it a chance. You can't temporarily do it for 1 year. Of course, there was no difference 1 year. Are you kidding me? Come on, Roger. Get your head on straight.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're asking you guys out there in the comments, was it a catch? What do you guys think out there? Let us know in the comments what you feel out there. See if you agree with this or not, and give us a description too. Whether prove your point. Let's see what you say. Maybe you can convince us or whatnot to see if you see it differently than we do. But yeah, I think a lot of the people around us again feel the same way looking at it. But now it's over, Joe, right? We had a lot of great games this weekend. Seattle dominated the 49ers again. I mean, you look at that game and they never had a shot. It was just like week 18 all over again, but then even worse, right? Yeah.
Worse.
It's like watching a movie and you're like, man, that movie kind of sucked. And then you're like, we watch the second one, the sequel comes out, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe that one's better. I'll try it. And you're like, that one was worse. Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I wanted to leave that, theater after the first 10 minutes, right? That's what this game was kind of like. I'm sure Brock Purdy wanted to leave that game after the first 10 minutes too, Joe.
I mean, was it even, can we call it a game at this point? Like, that was such a dominating outcome for the Seattle Seahawks over the 49ers. A rival, by the way. Usually those games are like nitty gritty, down to the wire, low scoring. Like, man, Seattle just opened up a can of whoop ass and just really put it to the 49ers. And just like you mentioned in the intro, does that mean that Seattle's the best team now? Are they the team to beat at this point? I'd have to say
Mm.
yes. I have to say an emphatic yes, because this defense has not even slowed down a bit. In fact, they've gained momentum throughout the regular season into the playoffs, and now you're seeing the end result of pinnacle of perfection on that side of the ball for them. And then you kind of, you know, put that together with the offense and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, we can't joke about Sam Darnold anymore. This was a big moment. This was not only just a big moment in the playoffs, it was also against a division rival, and he still overcame. He still dished out the football here and there. They executed so well offensively, defensively, and I just have to say, wow, like this is a team that is definitely the team to beat. We thought it was the Rams. It's drastically changed really quickly. And we're going to see yet again another matchup between Seattle and the Rams. Who can outdo who? But I think we're pushing the needle towards Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, pure dominating defense here. 174 total yards, or total yards allowed. The previous game in week 18, 173. They only scored 3 points in that game. They scored 6 in this one. And the 49ers, with that defense of the Seattle Seahawks, never advanced the ball past Seattle's 22-yard line. So there was no real red zone, offense here for them. Brock Purdy, 15 for 27, 140 yards and an INT. Brutal. He was running for his life, and they were stopping the run effectively too. They were just dominating at the line, whether it be just crushing Christian McCaffrey to where he was getting banged up, or pressuring Brock Purdy. He's just running around trying to make plays. And if you look at Brock Purdy, he is not to blame to lose this game. I know a lot of people out there too are chiming in. They're like, well,
No,
Brock Purdy, you
right,
threw him a bag of
right.
cash. Now he's not delivering and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Look at what this team has done with the injuries that they've had throughout the season. On the
True.
defensive side of the
They've
ball with
whipped
Robert
them off.
Saleh, it's earned him a coaching job, a head coaching job in Tennessee now. And Kyle Shanahan, probably one of the better coaching jobs of his career, especially after a year of last year where they were riddled with injuries and they were terrible, like terrible. They needed to try and bounce back this year, but then injuries early on, Fred Warner goes down, stuff potentially he could have came back into the game, into this game, played, started this game, but again, still not healthy enough, sitting on the sidelines cheering his team on. But enough pep talks were just not enough to do anything for this game. Just that this Seattle Seahawks brought it again with more fierce, of a defense. Plus Kenneth Walker, between him and Charbonnet, but mainly Walker on the run. That's what I liked about Seattle here. They put the foot to the metal, throttle all the way, much like the Patriots of old, right? Hey, we don't need to use Sam Darnold to try and beat them here, in this game. We're running the ball effectively. Let's just
Mhm.
still run the ball. It's not that Sam Darnold, we don't trust him, that he can't get the job done, this and that. It was working, and it was tiring down the defense. 19 carries for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns for Kenneth Walker. Every time I blinked, I saw him in the end zone. It was nuts. And Sam Darnold,
Yeah.
even too, efficient, low volume, only 17 attempts for a touchdown. But look at some of the key throws he made in that game. That one cross body throw, I
Yeah.
think, that he did for that touchdown in the end zone was ridiculous. And then also don't forget about the special
Yeah.
teams right off the gate. I'd go upstairs to get a drink to
Rashid Shaheed.
and the 95-yard kickoff return by Rashid Shaheed. Saints got to be like, oh man, yeah, we traded him away. Oh, yikes. So absolute dominance.
Real quick though, like to kind of piggyback off of the offense here, let's give them their due in a position that doesn't get enough credit for Seattle, their offensive line. Against the 49ers, they only allowed 5 pressures. That's it. 5 all game. And this is a defense that's led by led by Robert Saleh, who has done a ton with nothing at his disposal. Fred Warner out, Nick Bosa out, and a number of other players were out, was playing with basically backups and still having a very good defense. But the Seattle offensive line, They are big time winners in this playoff matchup. They held their own, giving up only 5 pressures. And then to the defensive side, only 14.6% of the Seattle Seahawks defensive drives have ended in a touchdown. That is best in the NFL. If that doesn't tell you that this team is for real defensively, offensively, and ready to rock, I don't know what will.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I looked at it, dude, I crushed out the stats here, and Brock Purdy, 52% of the time was pressured. That's more than half of the dropbacks for Brock Purdy.
That's a lot.
So
That's an awful
again,
lot.
he played as well as he could, try to make some plays, scrambling around, and made some really ridiculous throws, especially the cross-body throws and stuff. But too little, too late, not enough, just pressured all day long. They're going to retool and hopefully get going next year. He's ready. The team's on his side. And I feel like Brock Purdy, this doesn't change the way I see him, view him in his career moving forward. I don't think he's to blame at all for any of this. And I don't feel like, the 49ers, gave him the bag of cash way too early. So, all right. So let's move on to the Texans game and the Patriots. That's another one. The Patriots and the Texans. That one was another kind of just boring game, right? It seems like it was, if it's a Patriots game, it seems like it's a boring game, right? That one kind of not a lot going on. It was very sloppy. And I said this to you, Joe, after we watched the games and stuff. But it seems to me this year's playoffs, especially, very sloppy play altogether. Turnovers galore for defensive players and this and that, but not even on things that they're doing, like quarterbacks just not controlling the football, hanging on to it. Just really sloppy play altogether for all these teams.
I mean, I got to say that this playoff, and I know we had a conversation after all these games, we were on the phone with each other and we're like just talking about the different plays. We're talking about all the games, but really kind of what we came down to is the fact that not only has it been sloppy play, but it's sloppy play throughout the whole entire playoffs. Every playoff game hasn't been that great. Yes, there's been a couple that you can kind of pick out, but I got to say, overall, this is the sloppiest playoff, playoff race to the Super Bowl that in my time of watching football since I was little, this is the sloppiest I've ever seen it. I've never seen it this much sloppy play and mistakes mounting up like crazy for teams. It's not as honed in as it used to be. It's not as, precise. I mean, we're used to seeing some of these playoff matchups where it was literally either back and forth, it was very exciting, or it was a defensive struggle between two opponents. But this year, I got to say, there's a lot of mistakes, pretty sloppy play. This game right here with the Patriots was no exception at all. We saw it with New England.
Drake May fumbling multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a little uncanny, to be honest. Like, I did not expect this. I was really excited for the playoffs for this season because it was different teams. It was refreshing, and I'm like, oh, this should make out to be a really good playoff run. And man, very disappointed so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So after the last two playoff games for CJ Stroud, it's got everybody again scratching their head and asking the question now, has he just flat out regressed? We saw his rookie year coming out strong, and his regular season stats look good. But the last two playoff games, they won 30-6, but that was after a defensive effort. CJ Stroud again turning the ball over, interceptions. This past week, 4 interceptions, sacked 2 times, just looks lost out there. Going back to the huddle, shaking his head, he's all down in the dumps, and you don't see a spark out of your quarterback. And that's what this team needed, and that's what your team needs in the playoffs. Your defense is giving everything out there. They're doing everything to keep you in this game. And when you're just not taking care of the football and you're turning the ball over and you're coming back and almost be like, oh man, this and this, not going back to sidelines, firing it up, that's on me, let's go, we're going to do this, none of this, just slumps shoulders already. And it's odd because coming out of the gate, he looked like he had promise. You had that sophomore year where it was a down turn, and they were kind of like, well, it's his sophomore year. Maybe people are just figuring him out a little bit. Let's kind of see what happens after this. But after these last couple games, when the stars are brightest and when all the lights are on you to perform, you shut down like this. That's not big, and that's not big for him, especially moving forward if he wants to be the starter or the franchise quarterback for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any excuses for CJ Stroud. Like, he looked piss poor. I mean, that's really in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, absolutely terrible. And you cannot make the mistakes that he made continuously and think that you're going to win the game in the very end. I mean, the most outrageous thing was the fact that right before halftime, they were only down
Yeah.
by 11 points, even though he was making mistake after mistake. The defense, you got to give them a lot of praise. The Houston Texans, they are definitely one of the best defenses. They showed it in the playoffs, giving ample opportunity for them and for this offense with CJ Stroud to come back and potentially win. Couldn't do it against the Patriots. Again, the blame falls a lot, not totally, but it does fall a lot on CJ Stroud in these playoffs. You saw D'Amico Ryans on the sideline, super frustrated every time there was another turnover. And in the very end, when you knew the question was coming in the presser, D'Amico, does this, seeing CJ Stroud, how he performed, like, is there any kind of question for his future in Houston? And he said, stood there and steadfast and said, nope, he's our quarterback. And that's what you want from your coach. But at the same time, you expect your quarterback to step up in those crucial moments. The one thing that I'll say for Stroud, because there's 2 sides of the coin here, I will say that offensive line didn't help him at all.
Right.
I mean, the amount of pressure that Stroud had was absolutely tremendous. And it didn't, from round 1, round 2, it didn't matter. They still couldn't figure out a way to give him a clean pocket. And yes, he was rattled. There's no doubt about it. Some of the decisions that he made by floating the ball up made no sense to me. He should have just took the sack. He should have took the sack like Peyton Manning used to do it all the time. He, instead of making a poor decision, he would take the sack. They would punt the ball. You have that good of a defense. Why are you trying to make something happen that's not there? And that's where all these turnovers happened. So it is on Stroud just as much as this offensive line did not help protect him.
I agree. When you looked at, the offensive line, that was a question we had going forward in the beginning of this season, and it showed when it came down to it and they needed them the most. He was getting pressured and he had no time to do anything. But we've seen CJ Stroud kind of take this before, though. We've been in the playoffs consecutively. And a hard-fought game last year against the Chiefs. He's known to take off running in those pressure situations, and he seemed like he didn't. Instead, stood in the pocket, but not even stood in the pocket. He jumped into the pocket. Let his feet leave the ground in throwing, something unorthodox that we haven't really seen out of him before. It was very odd to see.
And that's because he was trying to make something happen.
Yeah,
and you're right. There was pockets in some points throughout the game where instead of trying to make the throw, you could have took off and got 5 yards for the first down. You could have took off and got some extra yardage. And he just wasn't doing that. Now, I know he's not typically a runner. We don't know him like that, but he can.
Oh, he
has
can.
the speed to do it. Why not utilize it especially in these critical moments where it's sudden death? You're in the playoffs. There is no next week. If you lose, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. And CJ Stroud, I think when I looked at his season stats, I think he averages like 4.4 yards a carry, when he runs too. So he can do it, and he is effective that way. And that's part of his game to an aspect too. He's not known as like a runner / thrower, but he can do it. And that's in those moments, like you said, take the down the play or whatever, take what you get and just live to fight another day, put it on your defense again. Hopefully they can get a stop. And then now you have better field position most likely, instead of turning the ball over on your side of the field to put them up in scoring position instantly. That's a game decider. That's a game changer every single time. So I think moving forward in this offseason, the Texans need to evaluate this, and this will be a question that will be asked when it comes time to find out his next deal. What is he worth? What are they going to pay him? For a guy that had early on looked pretty good, and for me, I think he looks pretty stupid because we talked about it after that first season when everybody's interviewing him, who's your top 5 quarterbacks or whatever, and he put himself in that line. And I was like, you better pump the brakes first. You know, I mean, it's good to be confident, but you can't be putting yourself in the top 5 list, you know, when you're talking about another list. And now he looks like he has egg on his face right now. So that's one question I think that the Texans need to face next season. What are they willing to pay him? And they're just going to say, hey, well, next man up, you know, you got to do this. And then you got to pay the guy because you need that quarterback. I don't know, because at times during this season, Davis Mills led this team pretty well, relying on that defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, for CJ Stroud in his future, like, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he is the guy going forward. I do fully expect them to give him another deal to keep him for the future. Davis Mills, he has his limitations. Like, we've seen that before too. Yes, did he do an adequate job? For sure. All he had to do was manage the game and not screw up. He's good at that. He's a very good backup. But Stroud, no doubt about it, is going to be the future for them. The one other thing that I would like to bring up about the Houston Texans is this all stems from the offseason, like this past offseason, right? Where they traded not one, but 2 starting offensive linemen away, having the reassurances like, oh, we drafted 2 rookies to replace them. We're going to be fine. And in the end, as you go down through the season and into the playoffs, they weren't able to hold up. So that right there, I feel like was a critical, poor decision personnel wise, which kind of came back to bite them in the end. So they're going to have to look forward into this offseason. I think yet again, they're going to have to dip into maybe either bringing in a free agent offensive lineman to start, or at the very least going to the draft and yet again have to draft another offensive lineman because they are not set as of right now.
Absolutely, Joe. Yeah. So we'll look at that looking forward in this upcoming season. Everybody, again, let's see it in the comments. What did you guys think about some of these games? Was it a catch for Buffalo? CJ Stroud, what do you guys think about him? Brock Purdy and the 49ers. I mean, I don't think it was his fault. Seattle, are they the team to beat right now? If you look at the playoffs, when we're saying how sloppy this is, they're playing complementary football on all phases, dominating. And look, you get to beat the 49ers in a divisional round, going to a championship round after you already had a bye week, so you rested players there. You typically basically rested players in that last game, especially JSN. He played, but he didn't really have to do a whole lot. You got Kenneth Walker, the third there as your bell cow in the back. We will look at Charbonnet and see how he pans out. I know he got on a bicycle late in that game after getting injured, but take him out, rest him up, get that team going. And they look ferocious right now. So to face off against a Rams team that they know very well, again, that division has been really exciting to watch this year too. So that's going to be an exciting matchup.
For sure.
Talking about the Rams and that game against the Bears, what did you think about that game, Joe? And I know you've kind of changed your mind about Caleb Williams, but in this game, I wanted to see him kind of, again, shine in those moments. And he looked better in these moments in that game than he has in the last couple previous games. And he really put his arm strength on display in that big dramatic throw at the corner of the end zone. When I'm watching it again, I'm like, here he goes again, running 20, 30 yards, backwards. Here you go. Same old Caleb, but turns, sees the man and throws a bullet pass right to where his wide receiver is for a wide open touchdown. What'd you think about that?
I think it was super risky. I'm not gonna lie. That was running backwards, and it's like,
right? Like you're all laying it all.
I get it. You gotta create time, right? But like the fact that he was running backwards, I'm like, oh man, you just, if you're a Bears fan, you're like, please don't trip.
Yeah.
Please don't lose the ball. Like,
Bears fans had to
gotta make something happen, and he did. But by going all that far back, and for him, this also displays his strength of an arm. Like it's one of the best strong arms in the NFL. He put that on display. Not only was he running backwards, but then turns around and flicks it, and it goes like a dart right to Cole Kmet. It was absolutely amazing. Bears fans, I think, were even shocked. Like, they were obviously losing their minds, but I think they were a little surprised on that type of play. But yeah, I've been down on Caleb Williams ever since he got drafted, and I'm not afraid to say it. Maybe I was wrong on him at this point. Until I see anything otherwise, it is what it is. And you got to give a lot of credit to Ben Johnson being a first year coach. And yeah, we all knew what an offensive minded coach that he was, a great one at that. For him to come in here and in one off season, literally almost eliminate the issues that Caleb had prior is undaunting. I've never seen this
Yeah.
before, where there was a lot of work that had to be done with Caleb, but in one off season, Ben Johnson was able to not only figure out an offense that fit him perfectly, but also utilize his tremendous talents and kind of dispose the nasty ones. Just flat out get rid of them. So they utilize his legs when things aren't working. Like, it's kind of almost very eerily similar to Patrick Mahomes when he
Hmm.
came into the league and he got teamed up with Andy Reid, and you
Yeah.
saw like his ability to utilize his legs when he needs to,
Hmm.
not all the time. But man, Caleb Williams has really kind of turned it around for himself and for his career. This Bears team is going to be around for quite some time because they are
Yeah.
young, especially
Yep. Yep.
offensively.
Yeah. It was definitely something to watch to where he had those tangibles, and now it seems like Ben Johnson has kind of unlocked him and honed him in and tuned it in,
Mhm.
fine tuned it. So
Oh, and you bring up tuning it in and honing it in. Ben Johnson forced Caleb Williams to be in the film room with him for the majority of the
mhm.
offseason. Calling plays. What do you see defensively? Like, how are you reading this? Like, really picking apart his brain and then reassessing and reteaching him, which you see
Yes,
the evidence
yes,
this year.
absolutely. Getting in the film study, absolutely. So let's touch back on the Bills game one quick before we move on to some other things, because obviously Sean McDermott fired after the unsuccessful playoff run
Yeah.
again. People calling into question Josh Allen even on this one, even though he's led that team by himself,
No.
literally, on this one. So uh Josh Allen obviously is going to say, "Hey, I got to play better. I'm going to do this." But people to take the blame and have Josh Allen to take the blame on this one, I think is ridiculous. He did all he could, and like I said, if it comes down to that controversial pass where he put it where it needed to be, and there was a couple plays before that, again, he
Mhm.
dropped the ball right in the bucket where it needed to be, and some of his receivers just failed to come up with it. And Brandon Cooks was one of them on the sideline too, pass to him that he just missed as well. So he did everything he could, and if you look at his stat line again, um, you can't ask for anything better than what this guy does, right? In the playoffs, this guy is 355 out of 534 passes, 66.5% in the playoffs, almost 4,000 yards in the playoffs right now, 29 passing touchdowns and 6 INTs for a rating of 101.5. I mean, you can't say that this guy doesn't show up for those big moments, doesn't show up for the playoffs, because this is the rumors. That's what I mean. I kind of hear, or this the narrative they try to push is, oh, come playoff time, these guys just don't show up. This guy shows up and shines out. It just can't get it done. He's not the complete team. He can't play defense. He lost 241 yards to sacks too, sacked 32 times over in the playoffs too. So offensive line breaking down for him. And if you look at him offensively rushing too, he has 540 yards rushing the ball too, and 3 touchdowns in just the playoffs. And his playoff record, though, 7-6. So just not the right kind of numbers you're looking to show for it, but he can't play the defensive side of the ball either.
Yeah, he also can't catch
Yeah.
the ball either. Like, he can run it. We've seen that, but he can't catch the ball as well. He just didn't have the receiving core to kind of distribute the football all over the place and have that, that calmness, that conviction, in any one receiver besides Khalil Shakir. He's been his security blanket for quite some time. He's his go-to guy, but outside of that, outside of your slot wide receiver, you don't have any playmaking outside receivers that are like a Stephon Diggs when he was there. Like he could rely on Diggs when he was in Buffalo, and you saw the big impact that it made. James Cook, what
Mhm.
happened to you, bro? What happened? You fumbled. You fumbled the bag. What are you doing? So no, of course the blame can't go on Josh Allen. Do you realize? Does anybody realize out there that Josh Allen belonged on a stretcher? That Josh Allen belonged in the hospital? This guy was so banged up and so heavily injured, but he still rose to the occasion. Still was there for his teammates and his coaches, and you could see the absolute distraught face after that game, knowing, and I know this, Josh Allen knew that if they lost that game, that McDermott was going to be on his way out. He absolutely loves Sean McDermott, just like many of his teammates do. That whole team absolutely was completely shocked when the ball dropped and they got the news that McDermott was no longer their head coach. And now it's and pissed even. Like you heard from Deion Dawkins in the locker room how obviously he was disappointed, but then when he heard the news about McDermott, he damn near flipped the table. Like he was super aggravated. So this team came together. This team fought hard. There was no let up, no give up on this team. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of gave up on Buffalo right before the playoffs. I'm like, well, they might be one and done. I'm not afraid to admit it. I got it wrong. They still seem to find a way. And Josh Allen found a way. And here we are, McDermott no longer there. What's the next steps for them? It seems like possibly a familiar face might be returning. Brian Dayball, he used to be the offensive coordinator. Now it sounds like he's going to get an opportunity to maybe return as head coach. And obviously, Joe Brady, who's been their OC this year, he's interviewed for the head coaching job as well. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I know that Broncos passing game coordinator Davis Webb is also another candidate that they really like. So all in all, sounds like you might have a familiar face back in Buffalo. Maybe it's Joe Brady stays, maybe it's Brian Dayball, but that's what the indicators are right now. I know some Bills fans would be elated for that. They did like Brian Dayball when he was there, worked well with Josh Allen. You got familiar face, continuity, and all that. So, but I got to say, Sean McDermott now being a free agent coach, what's the next step for him?
Yeah.
Is he gonna have an opportunity to and
Oh,
it seems
absolutely.
like, every time every single day, another head coach gets
Yeah.
announced. And, McDermott being a late bloomer into this cycle, I don't know if he'll become a head coach. I don't. I it might be DC for this year for him. Now it could turn around really quickly with teams that are still, have that vacancy available to where maybe they kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Like, hey, you know what? Didn't anticipate Sean McDermott being
Mhm.
available. Let's go interview him.
Mhm.
So that's also an option, obviously, for these teams.
Yeah, I think there's still a spot for him because I think even in his 9 years, they've won divisional championships. They've made it to the playoff consistently. So it shows a path of winning on top of it. And for a team that's kind of looking for structure and discipline, McDermott's your guy. So if you're afraid of getting
Yeah.
an experiment, some guy that hey looks good, as a coordinator, but then turns out to be, nothing, and just a flop, you already have this guy standing in front of you with a proven record. Go get him. That's what I think you should do. So moving on to some other spots for him, I mean,
Mm.
who's opening? And there's 6 other spots still, including Pittsburgh, right? So, I mean,
Yeah,
who knows?
Pittsburgh
Maybe
Steelers are still
that's what
open,
they
and
feel like they're gonna go. Yes, they moved on from Mike Tomlin, but structure, discipline, something like that might fall along the lines of them, or one of these other teams that are just looking for to kind of build a foundation from the ground up too, as well.
there's 2 names to keep an eye on for the Steelers. Anthony
Hmm.
Weaver, formerly the D coordinator of
Hmm.
the Dolphins, and Brian Flores, who just recently had a face-to-face
Hmm.
interview with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Vikings D coordinator. Keep an eye on those 2 guys. It seems like those guys right now are the
Yep.
favorites to one of them are gonna land the job. So, that's for the Steelers. Jim mentioned it. early on in the show. Robert Saleh, Tennessee Titans head coach, got announced midnight last night. Yet
Yeah.
again, around midnight seems to be the
Yeah.
time to announce that we're hiring a head
Schefter,
coach.
man, he's like got
The
the
Tennessee
phone next
Titans
to his pillow.
got themselves
Yeah.
a real one. They really did. I think this is an excellent hire. Now let's see if they give them an opportunity to stay over a year,
Yeah.
and not fire the guy the
Yeah.
following season. So that's something to
Yeah, it'd
watch
be
out for.
interesting to see who he hires on for his staff moving forward because he's going to get that
Mhm,
defense tight. That defense is already pretty good, but now I think he's going to hone it in, especially, and that would only help out Cam Ward, which it seemed like as the last couple of games really turned it on and started to buckle down and perform well. So if you can keep that going consecutive here and pick up the new offense,
mhm.
what it might be, and they can get the most out of him, that team could be an interesting team in that division to where it's tight all over. And what do we see out of CJ
So
Stroud next
now
year in that division too? So,
so now the interesting thing too is like who's he going to hire for the
mhm,
offensive
mhm,
staff? Mike McDaniel seems like the most logical one, right? They work together with the 49ers. They understand each other. They're friends. Like, makes a lot of sense. But we just got news right before we
mhm.
started the show that Mike McDaniel is on his way to LA. He's going to be the new Chargers offensive coordinator. So that pipe dream is not going to happen. Robert Saleh now is going to have to switch gears and maybe, who knows? Maybe Robert Saleh might bring in uh, Clint Kubiak's little brother, Clay Kubiak, who is the OC
Mhm.
for the 49ers under Stefanski or under
No, Shanahan. Yep.
Kyle Shanahan. Maybe he's going to bring him over, another familiar face, maybe to kind of run the offense. However, no play calling experience, so could be a risk. But who knows? He is a bright mind throughout the league
Yeah, I think
circles.
that's interesting you bring that
But
fact
again,
up too, because you talked about it last week when we were talking about coaching carousel as well. And I never even heard anybody really say that so much. And then now I'm hearing it
mhm,
more now as talking heads are going and on the radio and stuff now about the question mark that is with some of these coordinators that are getting interviewed for head coaching jobs. You've never head coached. Your head coach is the play caller. So why does that prove that you can be a head coach and call the plays right now? So, you know, that could be a big, dangerous question that some of these teams, if they're buying in on some of these coordinators, hey, we're going to grab him. That offense looks good, blah, blah, blah. You know, sort of it's like Mike LaFleur, right? You talked about it. That's one of the names that you
mhm.
brought up as, all right, you want Mike LaFleur, but Sean McVay runs that whole thing. He calls the plays. He's doing everything. What's this guy bringing to the table? He's unproven. And you want him to be your head coach? I don't know so much. So that's the
And that's the
interesting thing
thing
moving forward in
is
these coaching job searches.
you make that point, but look at Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel, same
Mhm.
scenario. Under Kyle Shanahan, wasn't really calling the plays, got his opportunity with Miami as a head coach, and then boom. He was already being talked about as one of the more brilliant offensive minds, much like some of these other guys that have the tag OC, but the head coach is the one calling the plays. Sean McVay calling the plays with the Rams, like you said. Mike LaFleur is just sitting there, but he's been marinating. He's been soaking up knowledge from McVay. So that kind of gives you at least a little bit of
Mhm.
reassurance that may, and with all the talk and chatter that's around guys like LaFleur, guys like Nate Shieldhouse, who's the I think the passing game coordinator for the Rams. He's another kind of like offensive, bright-minded guy that teams seem to feel like it's definitely early for those guys to kind of step into those large roles, but they are gaining so much traction that maybe a team gives them a shot. Maybe the Cleveland Browns do, but it sounds like all indicators say that Jim Schwartz just interviewed for a second interview
Mhm.
with Cleveland. It sounds a lot like
Yeah.
that's his job. It sounds like they don't want to lose Jim
Yeah.
Schwartz. I know I've heard from
Yep.
Cleveland. They love the guy. The players love him, obviously. So it sounds like that all indicators are saying that Jim Schwartz will be the new head coach of Browns. But again, you sometimes these guys are
Yep.
risks. Even though they're bright offensive minds, they're highly talented. Even a guy like Davis Webb, the passing game coordinator for the Broncos, a lot of people, and I mean across the board in the NFL all rave about this guy. The Raiders, the anybody that's had Davis Webb in for an interview have been
Mhm.
blown away on what his philosophy is and how he would go about things. So there are guys like this that, yeah, they haven't had the play calling experience, but sounds like they are impressing in their interviews to the point where maybe they get an
Yeah, and
opportunity.
you talked about Mike McDaniel going to the Chargers, and you might not be cool with it, but I mean, I think that's interesting for me to watch. Like, I feel like you will get. He's had Tua over there in Miami, who's had the concussions issues though, and then the arm strength, all the questions there and blah blah decision making. I don't think you
Mhm.
have any of those
Yeah.
questions with Justin Herbert. So he already has a more stable quarterback. You have some good running backs, which he had also in Miami too with Devon Achane too, to run his offense. Now get a couple of wide receivers there, get better protection. I think we could at least, as if you talk about the maybe just the butting heads with Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel. Maybe just, hey, here, nerdy kid, do your thing, and he lets the nerd play, and the nerd can get this offense going, and it's a beautiful thing to watch on the field and watch this offense turn into something that we kind of look at it like something that it could be, and it wasn't getting done under Greg Roman. So I think it would be interesting to watch, and it'll be fun to watch, and maybe see this offense kind of come out of its shell here. So that's something I'm looking forward to. So I kind of like the fit there. I think it'll be exciting for that team.
Yeah, it's the only one that I have a little bit of a question of, like, how much control will Jim Harbaugh kind of just let him
Hmm.
have? And in the way he calls plays, he's very creative. There's no doubt
Hmm.
about it. I was super excited to see him even become
Yeah.
available to maybe be a head coach, but let alone an
Hmm.
OC for you
Yeah.
would be tremendous. We've seen how creative he gets with the Miami Dolphins. Now, the current personnel with the Chargers, you can't necessarily do the same type of playbook and the same calls for them. They're not built the same way. So I know he's going to have to kind of get a little bit more creative for the guys that they have. They don't really have any like super high end speed burners. You got a guy in Keenan Allen who is should be a free
Hmm.
agent again, but if they re-sign him
Yeah.
too, it kind of
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if the personnel matches what he's going to want to
Hmm.
try to do. I do agree with you, Jim, in the fact that McDaniels is probably one of the best offensive minds right now to hire and kind of give yourself a spark there. I think Justin Herbert's
Oh yeah,
elated, to
absolutely.
be honest. Um, but we'll have to see how that relationship and that dynamic looks when we get to the
Yeah.
following season. But they're in good
It's
hands
just
at
like
least
Allstate, right?
with
You're
the
in
OC.
Allstate. One thing I want to get your opinion about the Atlanta hiring. We've talked to a bunch of our
Oh,
fans
yeah.
too out there, especially, excuse me, from our other show, our know-it-alls from Football on the No Show. Uh,
Mhm.
Atlanta fans out there too. Really high on Clinton Kubiak. Hey, that's gonna be our guy. We're going to want this guy, want this guy, and then you get Kevin Stefanski. What is your take on this? Do you feel that's the right fit? Are you excited for this? Do you feel like he can kind of get this ship going for these guys? So what's your deal on Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta?
I think it's a smart hire, I'll say, but it's not the best hire. And what I mean by that is much throughout the league, Kevin Stefanski's heavily respected. There's no doubt about it. And Cleveland Browns fans can say what they want to say about him and that he sucks and da da. And we've even criticized the hell
Mhm.
out of him too. Like we've said he couldn't get it done in Cleveland and he's had numerous quarterbacks. What's the problem? But the interesting thing about Atlanta, and this is where I was kind of confused in a sense where this ship got steered towards Stefanski once Matt Ryan got appointed as team president. Matt Ryan had his say in this whole ordeal. He wanted a experienced head coach. He didn't want to try to go with the innovative mind or younger or anything like that. He wanted an experienced guy. And Stefanski is that. He is experienced. Now, the interesting thing is to watch for is how he builds his staff because I hope that Stefanski just finds a maybe an offensive coordinator that can run his offense. Maybe it's not Stefanski so much calling the plays like he did in Cleveland, and maybe that might be the right thing to do. Stefanski is a very good coach. I feel like he would be a good head coach. He'd be even a better head coach if he didn't have the responsibilities of calling the
Mhm.
game plan. So I think that might be where the end result will be for the Atlanta Falcons. I know even Falcons fans might be a little upset with this news, but the good thing is that they were able to retain Jeff
Mhm. Yeah.
Ulbrich, who
Yeah.
was their D coordinator
Mhm.
last year. Now you have continuity on the defensive side, and now you just got to work on the offensive staff on the other
Yeah.
side. But
I think that was key for
I
them.
will say, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
definitely.
keeping him around because
And
again, the
then
fans were
another,
on board with Ulbrich, right? You know, we talked to a
yeah,
bunch of fans out there.
oh,
They love the
100%,
guy. He
yeah.
was even considered a lot of the fans, especially wanted to maybe look at him and get interviewed for the job. Bouncing back from that terrible, showing as interim head coach with the Jets, looking good with this defense here
Mhm.
for the Falcons, especially later on in the season. Keep them in their familiarity, getting that defense still in tune. Nothing really changes there for them. So just focus on the offense. So I'm liking that too as well.
Yeah, they also hired, offensive line coach Bill
Mhm.
Callahan, who is seen by many circles as one of the best offensive line coaches there is. So you can tell that there's the beginning right there. Like they're doing the beginning stages of hiring offensive guys, and I think that's a great starting
All
point.
right, we've got a comment out there for William Del Pilar is out there. McDaniels is great hire. He gives Herbert his best shot at leveling up Harbaugh's former quarterback, so he shouldn't roll with it. And by year three, he has to be winning in the playoffs. I think so. I think this year it is. I don't think year three. I feel like this year you got to turn it up a notch. You've made it to the playoffs a few different times right here and just laid an egg. I get the injuries though on top of it, but like Joe, you talked about it, the run style offense that they have, that doesn't work come playoff time. You need to kind of jump out ahead. You need to pass the ball. You need to be able to score within seconds. You see it in these last couple of games here. Games decided in the few waning minutes, moments, seconds, and it doesn't say you got 30 seconds on the clock, the team just scored. You have no timeouts. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? And I feel more confident in the Chargers with Mike McDaniel there running that offense than what they've been doing.
And let's be fair to the Chargers. That offensive line,
Mhm.
heavily injured. You didn't have your best guys out there. You were basically putting, bubble gum and duct tape over all those positions, hoping that these backups could take another big step up to help them in the playoffs. But let's be honest, when you don't have all your horses, it's extremely difficult to win in this league. So not having your key offensive line players available definitely critically hurt this offense. And it hurt Justin Herbert because he had to run more. There was no sitting in the pocket and then throwing to the open guy like it was in the beginning of the season. So, not to mention the old school way of thinking that Jim Harbaugh wanted to instill no longer works in the NFL. It just doesn't, because offenses can score so fast and then before you know it, you have to do the same to keep up. So we'll see how they go into this off season. We'll see what they can do for the upcoming year. Because here's the thing: is even with that old school thinking, this year when they were healthy, they were pretty
Mhm.
tough. They were winning games, and then the injuries mounted up, and here you go.
Yeah. Yeah. He also says Stefanski is a meh hire. He let Baker Mayfield walk and let the locker room to be taken over by the other players. Hey, Blake Bedingfield called it, said Stefanski wanted out and would get another gig. Yeah, I felt the same way when I heard the news too, because I
Hmm.
was kind of in on what Rise Up Dirty Birds, our man over there on the Football on the No Show, was saying, and like, yeah, Clint Kubiak, you get this offensive minded guy, he's younger, let's roll with it, see what happens. But maybe like when this came out, I was like, well, maybe Arthur Blank's looking for a guy with coaching stability again, or again, at least who's been there before, head coach, been there for a few years. Maybe that's what I want, because he tried Raheem Morris, he tried some other guys to try to elevate them out of a coordinator position, and it didn't really work out. So maybe Matt Ryan had a hand in this too. Maybe he saw something out of Stefanski. You're talking about guys in league circles said, hey, I like what this guy has done. I see what he's done, and I don't believe the other stuff that other people are saying. This is maybe part of it. Maybe you're seeing some of that already. Matt Ryan dipping his hands into it a little bit and stirring it up. But for me, I thought
Yeah,
it
a
was
few
okay.
moments
We'll see
ago,
what
I
happens this
just said
season,
that.
though. I mean, I think he's got to definitely
A
turn it up a notch.
few moments ago, I already said that, Matt Ryan was the one
Yes.
that really pushed this
Mhm.
envelope here to get Stefanski. Wanted an experienced head coach, didn't want to give a younger coach a chance. And you know what? He's probably had conversations with Arthur Blank. I know he's more of a business guy, not really, an X's and O's guy, but he trusted Matt Ryan with this
Mhm.
venture. So, um, again, they're gonna go away from hiring a coordinator to lead the team. Instead, they're going to get a guy who's been there, done that, and we'll see if it works out. I mean, I do like the fact that they kept Jeff Ulbrich in as DC. I think that was critical. I know the Falcons fans are elated about that news, but I think going forward, what is going to happen offensively? Who's going to be your quarterback? We've had this discussion about, is somehow, some way, Kirk Cousins going to stay with the new coaching staff, or are they going to completely move on from him? Or do you trust Michael Penix? I still think Penix is the future for Atlanta, but again, he's got to stay healthy. And if you can't stay on the football field, you're no good to the
Mhm.
organization.
Now, the Miami Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley as their head coach now, and I learned today
Mhm.
that Hafley went to school at Siena and graduated from Siena. Then he went and left there and got a bachelor's at UAlbany. So from upstate New York, where we broadcast, by the way, everybody here, ties up here. So it'd be pretty cool to see somebody like that that had gone to Siena and UAlbany now coaching, getting a head coaching job in the NFL, and now for the Miami Dolphins.
Mhm. Yeah, doesn't he look like a pissed off dolphin?
Like
I
a
mean,
real dolphin, like that.
yeah, he looks like a pissed off dolphin. That's what a dolphin would look like,
Hmm.
pissed off, is Jeff
Interesting.
Hafley. Take a look at his picture if you don't know who he is or what he looks like, and then come back to me and drop in the comments down
Does he
below,
look
pissed
like
off
a
dolphin.
dolphin?
Um,
And what's funny is he played for Siena when they
all I
had a
gotta
football
say,
team, and they don't have a football team anymore. How about that?
so with
Mhm,
Jeff Hafley in 2 seasons with the Packers as the D
mhm, mhm.
coordinator, mind you, his defense ranked in the top 10. And, that was 8th in the NFL. He takes over a Dolphins team, however, that allowed quarterbacks to complete 72% of their throws this season. That's worst in the NFL and third worst in a season all
Mhm.
time. So you could see by that stat right there and this marriage that they created with Jeff Hafley, the Dolphins want to get stronger on defense. The Dolphins want that defense to be so much more vastly improved that they think that is the weakest link right now.
Absolutely, I would
I
agree.
would kind of beg to differ. I would also
Oh,
say that not only defensively, but you look at that offense, and now you don't have Mike McDaniel. You don't have the innovative guy anymore. So this is going to change, I feel like, more dramatically offensively than I think the organization thinks. Um, who's Jeff Hafley going to bring in? Is he going to bring in maybe a former staffer with the Packers, maybe another offensive mind that's behind Matt LaFleur? Could be interesting. Or is he going to go a completely different direction with some of the guys that are available? So we'll see how he builds his staff. And I gotta say, like the craziest thing about this coaching
mhm.
cycle, right, is there's there's there will be 10 head coaches in the NFL next season.
Yeah,
10.
yeah,
That's a lot, right? The last time that happened was in
yep.
2022. And 8 of those hires have already been fired since 22.
What?
So, and that includes Brian Daboll, Mike McDaniel, Matt Eberflus, Nathaniel Hackett, Dennis Allen, Josh McDaniels, Doug Peterson, and Lovey Smith.
Wow, Lovey
Those are
Smith,
your 8.
man. Hmm,
So,
yeah.
all I have to say is be careful Hopefully you did your due diligence, organizations out there with your choices. And for the ones that are still vacant, they're
Well,
still
it
putting the
shows that
work in.
owners nowadays too, they're just like not afraid to pull the trigger on that. Say, hey, this ain't working. Let's move on. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we saw that with
I
the head coaches. The other stat that was a couple of weeks ago when a lot of these bigger names got let go as well, where former coach of the year is no longer,
Mhm.
coaching anymore, except for one, and that's Minnesota's head coach. And now people are even talking about this upcoming season is crucial for him in keeping his job because of the decision of you had Daniel Jones in the house and he left and went to Indy and excelling. You had Sam Darnold in the house and now he's moved on to Seattle and now he's doing well in the playoffs. You stuck with
Mhm.
solely JJ McCarthy only, and look where you are. You're at home sitting and watching everything transpire, and you guys were terrible on offense. And he doesn't look very good. Doesn't look like your franchise quarterback. So,
Yeah, and you bring up Kevin
mhm,
O'Connell,
mhm,
who's the head coach of the
mhm,
Minnesota Vikings. Also, Todd Bowles are the two only remaining guys that are still standing
from
from
those 10
those 10
coaches.
coaches. So,
Yep.
yeah, and you know what? I kind of disagree with Tampa's decision to keep Bowles, but hey, we'll see. We'll see if they can do something next year. Um, but I'll tell you right now, it's been a whirlwind with the coaches. It's been a whirlwind with the Giants get their guy in John Harbaugh. I know, literally after we got off the air last week, around 11:30 ish is when the Giants announced that they are going to hire John Harbaugh. Phenomenal hire. This is probably the favorite destination, I'll say, that I feel like Jim is a Giants fan, so obviously he
I'm gonna
loves this.
come.
But this is where I felt that John Harbaugh fit the you know, most perfect fit for him. And you see when he had his press conference, and how excited he is to
Yeah.
get started. Knowing that he has some key pieces already in place, and this Giants team is in great hands right now. I'm curious to see who he brings in for his
Yeah.
his staff. Like, does he try to? I think it. Who was it? I can't remember right now, but there was a team that requested some
Yeah.
Ravens
Mhm,
assistants and got
mhm.
denied. They just not allowed to
Yeah.
interview them for the same position. So he might have to get a little bit more creative, maybe call up some guys and give them promotions to bring them over. But uh, again, phenomenal hire for the
Yeah,
Giants. I
and
think
it's key
I'm
now that
excited for them.
ownership is wanted this type of guy, a guy with discipline, structure, a resume, and how much they value his opinion because fans, and I'm one of them as well, have debated the fact that why are you keeping Joe Shane? Why is he even still there? Is he even safe? Like he hasn't shown us anything. Some of the players he picked have been laying eggs, and some of the players that are still there are even Dable's guys that are performing well. But you're still safe. But with ownership, they have tied themselves with John Harbaugh, and he reports directly to them. So I feel like that is a strong bond there, and that leaves the window open or the door for Joe Shane to make an exit at one point.
Yeah, I think Joe Shane is going to be the
Mhm.
administration assistant. Like he's going to handle the contracts. He's going to handle whatever John needs
Yeah,
done, type of thing. And John's only going to have to report to the principal's office every
yeah,
once in a while. So it'll be an interesting dynamic to see if it works, because we've seen this kind of thing before where you give a head coach a lot of power. It They seem to struggle with it because it is a lot. Like their job already is a lot. So I'm curious to see what and how John Harbaugh handles it.
absolutely, Joe. Yeah, so let's get to it. We got championship weekend coming up. Uh Great matchups. We've got the Patriots out there against the Denver Broncos and the Seahawks and the Rams on a rematch. But the also big intriguing news that we also found out last week after the game is all of a sudden Bo Nix, I thought I was getting like punked somewhere, right? We're looking at the Twitter feed and from Adam Schefter, I'm like, is that really Adam Schefter and not like a typo? And they're like, the fake Adam Schefter on Facebook with the blue check mark.
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
like, Jarrett Stidham's going to get the start because Bo Nix, has a fractured ankle. I was like, are you serious? Like, when did that even happen? Like, when did that happen? I watched the whole game. Like, he didn't even
Yeah.
squint in like the interview. Like, he was calm. Like what happened there? And this changes the whole face of this game. Like, you've got to now Sean Payton. I know William Del Pilar does not like Sean Payton, and I don't like him either and stuff. So he's got his coaching job right here, on the line, not on the line, but he's got his work cut out for him in this one, getting this offense going with Jarrett Stidham as opposed to Bo Nix. And I wasn't even excited what they were doing with Bo Nix because they weren't really pushing the ball either, doing too much laterals to the side and throws and runs to the sides, not really pushing the ball forward, relying on that defense a lot to get them in opportunities to win. Now you've got Jarrett Stidham there. This is a tough pill to swallow here and a tough mountain to climb for the Denver Broncos facing off against a Patriots team who seems like they're running on all phases as well, much like the Seattle Seahawks, defensively turning the ball over, getting pressures, covering well, and then running the football efficiently, not asking too much of Drake May, but then he can also get it done on some of those throws as well.
Yeah, you know what? It's never a good thing when you lose your starting quarterback, and we've
This
said this
far in the
countless
game.
times that when you lose your starting quarterback, you're dead in the water. And the interesting thing is, it's not such a big decline. It's a little slight decline, but Jarrett Stidham has had experience, has come into some games with other teams, various teams, and he's done an adequate job. He's done an admirable job. He's not going to be asked to do too much, obviously. But I don't think Bo Nix has been asked to do too much. So you might see very similar play calling, maybe identical play calling from Sean Payton. I don't think there's a drastic jump when Bo Nix is in the offense. I gotta say, like, Stidham can do everything that Bo Nix can do. He has a strong arm. He is accurate. He is also mobile too. So when the opportunity presents itself, I could fully, be on board with him just taking off and running. Forget the play. Who cares? Just get yardage. So I think they're going to keep it simple for him. And I feel like Sean Payton's been doing this all season long with Bo Nix anyway. So as much as it
Yeah.
sucks, I mean, it is what it is, but they're going to roll with it. And I feel like the offense, yeah, it's not going to get a big spark or anything like that. But I feel like this team hasn't been that great anyway offensively. So, and yeah, they've been relying heavily on their defense, and that's how they've been winning. So if the recipe works, just
Right.
keep doing it. So we'll see if they can pull it off. I think it'd be a
Yeah.
huge hurdle. I mean, regardless, because Stidham hasn't had enough repetitions, at least in live action this year. It's been all Bo
Yeah.
Nix. So is there going to be rust that shows up? Maybe that's the only thing that can hold them back offensively until they work out the kinks. But hey, it is what
Right.
it is. Like Denver is going to
Yeah.
do whatever they have to do to
Yeah,
try
and
to
I
get a
don't
win.
think that the Patriots have to change much in preparation here too, because I believe you would the same. I agree with the fact that the offense isn't really going to change either. It's been a dink and dunk kind of safe offense all year round for Bo Nix as well, and he hasn't lit it up either. That's why I'm still doubting him. When people are on the bandwagon, this and that, and I haven't liked them even during the draft. I'm still against them altogether. Here, I feel like Stidham might actually bring life into this offense a little bit and have a better shot of winning this game than if Bo Nix was in the game. So I'll go as far as that. And they need to be able to run the ball effectively in this game on top of it too. That defense can't do it all, and they've been able to force turnovers. They do get pressures. I mean, their pass rushers on the corners. I mean, it's ridiculous what they do and get to the backfield. So that's going to be crucial for them to try and pressure Drake May, because you've seen, especially last week, not taking care of the football. Mike Vrabel is going to be hard in his ear. Just say, dude, all right, that week we got away with it. We got out of it. Luckily, Stroud played like crap too. Control the football, man. Watch what you're doing. Watch around the side. See these guys blitzing, because you're not going to see them coming. So you need to, take care of the football.
That's the thing is you're going from a tough defense to another tough defense.
No,
It's
it's
not
not
going to
getting
get any
any easier.
easier. I I kind of expect the same
Mhm.
kind of outcome. He's going to get
He's
heavily
sloppy.
pressured.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to get sacked sometimes, and it is what it is. It's going to be part of the game. Now, the critical thing is to not commit
Mhm.
turnovers. He can't fumble the ball. He can't throw interceptions because you're just giving the other team in the Broncos another opportunity. Like this is kind of like how the Broncos have been living is off their defense. So if they start to get extra opportunities with turnovers and change of the field position, maybe this might be the Patriots' loss. You know what I mean? So um, I will say this: the Patriots' defense, electric. They played awesome. And I think that's going to continue. They're going to be playing against an inexperienced quarterback, not so much Bo Nix, who's had all the reps. So I feel like this game. I thought the last time the Patriots played against the Texans, I felt like that was going to be a closer game than it actually was. It was just sloppy
Mm.
overall. So we didn't get to really get a good game. We got a sloppy game. This game should be a lot cleaner. It should be more entertaining. Um, that's kind of what I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to.
absolutely. So let's look at the NFL, the NFC conference, and that's the Rams and the Seahawks at home. That crowd is going to go electric again. They were all over the place last week, and they were just loving life, with what they did right off the gate with Rashid Shaheed, that return, and then running the football, pounding the rock, and Sam Darnold throwing the ball on top of it, not having to do a whole lot. Like I said, it's like you're technically resting your players while they were playing in that game. So it was a perfect scenario for them to kind of roll through these next couple of weeks. But they faced a tough competitor in the Rams. But on the Rams side, for me, the offense has struggled. We talked about the defense a few weeks and how, they haven't played the best, but they've been a bend but don't break type of team on defense. They've been,
Yeah.
giving up yardage, this and this, but when it came down to crunch time, they've been making stops. And on the opposite side of the ball, I was surprised last week in how Matthew Stafford played, because overall, I think he didn't kill the team and was playing fairly well despite the weather, because I've always knocked him for that, with the fact that in bad weather games, he doesn't really show up. And this one, he played a bit better. And the running the ball, I think with Kyron Williams was effective too. They just weren't getting to the receivers. And I think the weather on the receivers point was affecting everything and breaking out of routes and the ball getting there. You've seen a lot of missed throws, but I think it's when they were making their cuts, you saw a lot of slips, a lot of kind of like stilt type of, chops trying to break on their routes, still the footing was off. Hopefully for them, the Rams in this game, the weather isn't going to be too bad, so much affecting the receivers in those routes to make this a tighter game, but it's going to be a matchup to see for sure.
Yeah, last week of the season didn't show me or didn't fulfill me with any confidence for the Rams going into the playoffs because they were
Yeah.
sloppy then, and they're still sloppy now. You know, the execution is
Mhm.
gone. It's not as precise as it was earlier in the season, and that's
Yeah.
concerning. I'm sorry, but if you're not able to tighten this up before this game in practice and really kind of hone in and lock into this, then I really doubt that the Rams and Matt Stafford are going to be able to pull it off. We've seen the Seattle team. They had a week off. So we're like, well, maybe they might be a little rusty in the beginning of the game, but no, surely not. They were dominating last week. They were in the face, high pressure defense. The offense was hitting on all cylinders. And you're going against them. You're going against the team that early on the season, they'll probably make it, to now they are the team to beat. And in the playoffs, they are red hot. The Rams still struggling to execute. And you mentioned the defense, Jim, with Chris Shula, the D coordinator, who's been doing interviews for possibly getting a head coaching job, but this can't look good on him. His defense, like you mentioned, it's a bend but don't break. I don't think that's going to get it done. I think you need to create pressure. If you can't do it with your front four, you need to bring it. You need to get after Sam Darnold. You got to get him rattled, because we've seen this happen before in the regular season, where if you're able to get a lot of pressure on Darnold, he starts getting rattled, he starts making erratic throws, he rushes the football and sometimes leads to mistakes. You got to be able to do that. if he can't turn this defense around, and they are a good defense. I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking on them, but they are a good defense. They just haven't shown it
Mhm.
lately, and something has to change for them. Offensively, it's the same deal. You're going into Seattle, and you have to face not only the hottest team, but now also in their environment. Good luck.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. So it's going to be one hell of a matchup. I'm excited to watch it. I know you are too as well. Do you have your picks for these matchups here? Who do you think? Who are you taking in these ones?
I mean, come on, I'm going to go
Mhm.
Seattle. Like I can't pick the Rams now because they haven't
Yeah.
shown me anything. So Seattle, not only did they get a bye week to get healthier, to get some rest, but also they came out
Oh
like
yeah.
gangbusters in their first matchup. So going into this matchup and they're home, yeah, give me the Seattle
Mhm.
Seahawks.
I'm going to agree with you as well. And on the opposite side of the ball, before even the Bo Nix stuff, I was going to pick the Patriots too. On top of this, I see a Patriots Seattle Seahawks rematch Super Bowl again, and this team, the Seattle team, super great defense, quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over a lot, safe running game on top of it. Reminds me of the Seahawks of old when they went to the Super Bowl last time with the Legion of Boom and all those guys. So very reminiscent of the same type of
They got
thing,
to
but
come
they
up with a
do
different
they
name.
definitely need another one. Let's see what happens.
They need a new
Yeah, as
nickname.
a
The defense
they need
needs a
to
new
have their own
new nickname. You
identity. We
can't
can't redo
reuse
that.
Legion of
But
Boom. So we gotta come up with something for
yeah.
them, Jim. That's what we gotta do before the Super Bowl. But I will say this though, like the Broncos Patriots game again. What I noticed from the Patriots last week is obviously going up against a really highly touted defense. They struggled
Mhm.
mightily. Now they were able to kind of hold them off and do just get enough plays to work to win the game because of their defense. This matchup, I feel like, is going to be yet another true test to them. I don't expect the Denver Broncos offensively, even though they have Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. I don't expect them to make so many mistakes like the Texans did, like CJ Stroud did. So if they are able to limit, maybe you give up one, it's not going to kill you. But if you're able to eliminate turnovers, I think the Broncos have a real legitimate chance to win this game. And on the other hand, I'm not going to go with the Patriots. I'm going to go with the Broncos just because that defense of the Texans is just as good. You can argue if it's better or not as the Broncos. And if the Broncos defense is able to give fits to Drake May in that offense, I think that's going to give them a leg up on the competition. They limit their turnovers, they pull off the game in the very end, and you have a backup quarterback yet again, like the Eagles, like Nick
Mhm.
Foles. Remember him? And they go to the Super Bowl. I think it would be it's kind of hilarious if it happens, but at the same time, maybe history repeats
I
itself.
don't know. Nick Foles had a lot more experience when he went though too. It's not like Jarrett Stidham. So I mean that's a bit of a reach. It would be an amazing story, absolutely. And
Nick
I
Foles was a
think
backup.
all together though, for the 3 out of the 4 teams, it's been an amazing story. For the to nobody picked, as far as I would even say, I would guess easily that nobody picked the Broncos or the Patriots or that the Seattle Seahawks would be here in the last remaining 4 teams. So, I mean, the fact that they are and they're playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, I think in itself is pretty amazing. We'll find out who wins Coach of the Year after this too. On the Super Bowl, a lot of different coaches up there for that award, and we'll see who everybody goes down for. But before we get up out of here, I have a pick six. I'm back with the pick six. I'm going to give you guys my pick six this week for the championship games heading into this next coming week. And the pick six this week is the hidden game swinging factors. It's the game swinging factors that almost nobody brings up on TV, but absolutely decide playoff games every single year. These aren't the obvious QB versus QB or run game matters cliches. These are under the hood levers that flip outcomes. All right, here we go. Number one on mine, early down pass rate in the first quarter. Most fans look at total pass run splits. What actually decides playoffs games is how aggressive teams are on 1st and 10 in the first 15 minutes. Why does it matter? Well, teams that throw on early downs in the first quarter average plus 1.8 EPA per play more than teams that run. It forces defensive out of their scripted looks, and it creates explosive plays before the opponent adjusts. This week, the team that comes out throwing instead of feeling out the game will likely control the script. Number two, defenses that can play middle field closed without blitzing. This is a massive one almost nobody talks about. If a defense can keep one safety deep, like the Broncos do, play cover 3 or cover 1 and still generate pressure with 4, it destroys modern offenses. Why? You stop the run with numbers, you take away crossers, and you force quarterbacks into tight windows outside the numbers. Only a handful of defenses can do this consistently. If one of them shows up this week, they'll suffocate the opponent. Number 3, hidden field position. Opponent starting field position after kickoffs. This is the most underrated stat in football. Teams that win average opponent starting field position win 78% of playoff games. Why does it matter? A difference of just 6 yards per drive equals -3 points per game. Short fields turn average offenses into elite ones. Long fields expose bad offensive lines. A single special teams mismatch can swing the entire game. We've seen that in the playoffs so far already. Number 4, who handles possession stealers better? Possession stealers equals 4th down attempts, fake punts, end of half clock manipulation, 2 of 1 opportunities, score before half or receive after half 2. That's a combo. Teams that win the possession battle, not turn the ball over possession battle, win over 80% of playoff games. This week, the coach who goes for it on the right 4th downs, steals an extra possession, avoids giving one away, will likely win, even if their quarterback isn't the better one, which we'll see in a bunch of these matchups here. Which quarterback beats the blitz without hot routes now? And that's number 5. This is a playoff cheat code. Some quarterbacks only beat the blitz when the offensive coordinator gives them quick game, hot routes, pre-snap tells, but the elite ones beat the blitz when the defense disguises and rotates post-snap. If a defense can blitz without tipping it and the quarterback can't adjust on his own, the game is over. And that's key, especially if you look at Jarrett Stidham and some of the younger quarterbacks, Drake May. We'll see how he adjusts in some of this. And finally, my number 6, hidden key to these games, the first negative play rule. This one is wild, but it is true. Teams that take the first negative play off the game, or the play of the game, sack, tackle for loss, penalty, lose 64% of playoff games. So the first negative play is key. Why? It kills the opening script. It forces the offensive coordinator off schedule. It creates early panic and conservative play calling. Watch the first 10 minutes. The first team to get behind the sticks usually loses. And there you go. That's my hidden key factors. My pick 6, I haven't done it in a while, Joe, but I'm finishing strong in this one for this end of the season before we get into the playoffs. So watch for those key factors.
So a couple things that I want to address as far as like a little bit extra news. Trayvon Diggs, if you haven't noticed already, but he's been released by the Packers. Um, don't know the reason why yet. Details haven't come out.
Oh my
But
God, who the hell?
all I have to say is that
cares?
he's going to be a heavily sought after free agent for sure, for a corner, for somebody to bring in, maybe heavily zoned corner. And also, there's a little bit of rumor going around with the Jets about, like, we've all said this, like, who's going to be their future? Who, now that Dante Moore has announced he's staying in Oregon, it really only leaves you one true quarterback in the first round worth taking, and that's Mendoza, most likely to go number 1 overall. Jets pick at 2. It sounds like they're going to be looking into quarterbacks like Tua, like Kyler Murray, like Geno Smith, and maybe a form of a trade. We'll have to wait and see, but I don't think those are good options either.
Well, there you go. Hot news right there, right off the skillet, Joe. So we'll follow that as we go during this week and into next week. So we're excited to watch these games this weekend. We hope you guys join us for our next show. We can talk all about it once again here on the Blindside Blitz. If you guys are just showing us or seeing us for the first time and you haven't liked and hit subscribe on the subscribe button yet, then what the hell are you guys doing? But if you need a little help and instruction, Joe, instruct these guys, will you?
It's real simple. Jim had a good thing going. It's real simple. You hit the button. It's called subscribe, and then you hit this other thing. It looks like a thumbs up, just to let maybe YouTube know that maybe other people would be interested in it. Uh, NFL talk all the time. We talk about everything, all teams, all that good stuff. Don't forget to tell a friend to tell a friend. Spread the word, and we'll see you guys later on.
All right, see you guys.